Hello log cabin lovers, this is Dave again. I'm doing a follow-up on the tour that I had of the cabin to show you how to actually hew a log. It ought to be interesting because I haven't hewed one in 37 years. We'll see if I remember anything that goes into it. This is a cottonwood log, and it's you can see it's got some curve in it. So the log is fairly straight on top and bottom, but I placed it so the curve is going like that, so when we hew it straight, it'll be fairly straight on top and bottom, but the edges will kind of erase that curve in it. So what I did is I found the center of the tree right through the tip of it, but then being the log is curving that way, if I went right dead center, I would have a spot down there where I was hardly hewing anything. So I moved this way a ½ inch, and that becomes, and made it plumb, straight up and down on a level, and that is center. Then I want a 6-inch log, so I measured that way 3 inches, made a level line, measured this way 3 inches, made a level line, and then did the same thing on the other end. Found a center line, and I moved a little bit to the left. So if you can see that snap line, I'm sorry it's in the shade here today, but I'm not going to move that log out into the open. Let me change this a little bit. If you can see that line, you can see that it's not going to hew as much log in the middle, but it will be flat out there. Okay, I drove a nail in on each end, and I strung a chalk line on there. One of the tips on a chalk line is if I held it down here and snapped either half, it'd be awful easy to just shove it into the log. You don't want to do that. You want to go straight down. So if it was a big belly, you could even put a level against the line and then follow it down and hold that line down so you're straight down. Now when I snap it straight down, you could take, if you really wanted to be old school, you could take a straight axe and go all the way down the thing and take a mark. I am not about to take that much time. When I built the cabin, I had an old clunky chainsaw, but my friend gave me a very nice little home light with a blade about that long. And man, it worked just wonderful for cutting these grooves. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that log over 180. I've rolled the log. I've cut the grooves here, 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 and here, full length of the log to define where the edge of the log is going to go. I rolled it 90 so that these are fairly horizontal. Now, if you were old school, you could take an axe and chop down to that line, or roughly to that line, and do that about every 12 inches. Well, I'm not even sure I got enough energy to hew a log, let alone make all those chop marks. So I'm going to use a chainsaw, and I'm just going to cut down to those two lines. I really had trouble seeing that saw mark on the back side. When I'm sawing, I don't know if you noticed, but I would saw down to the mark on this side, then rock over and peek and get it down to that side, and then go straight down until both of them were about to the line. A couple things if you were doing spruce or fir or one of the other woods you could use for the logs, if you have a knot, you might cut right down the center of the knot each time. That way you're not trying to hew off the whole knot, you're just hewing off half of it. My hewing method is pretty unorthodox. I rolled a log at about an angle like that. It can be any angle you're comfortable at. And I'm going to get started, I just pick a hatchet or a single-bitted axe and chop the first block off so you can get started more easily. Now, I'm going to be walking along hewing at an angle about like this. I'm going to try this and see if it's an angle I can work with. I think that'll be okay. That's really unorthodox, and I haven't seen any hewing techniques that reach across the log. Usually people are standing on the same side as the axe, or else they're standing on top of the log. Now, there's something reassuring about having a 10-inch piece of wood between a razor blade that weighs 3 pounds and my kneecaps and shin bones. This has worked for me, and I don't know why there's any big deal on any particular way that you have to do it. Now, this is a Gansford Bunks axe, and I wish I'd have got it single-sided like a hewing axe. You can get them double like this, like a regular axe, or you can get them flat on one side. I bought this 20 years ago. I wish I'd have got it flat on one side, because I got plenty of axes that are beveled on both sides, but I don't have any hewing axe. Now, I'm going to back up a little bit. These are those log dogs. Oh, I don't have, oh, there's a, these log dogs work pretty good. Usually the log will stay put without these, but you put them in there and it holds the logs good. These are called log bunks, and I just cut a V in there, and anyway, everything is held pretty good. Now, when I start out here, it's going to be a little awkward because this end of the log is actually kind of high up in the air. I wish it was down another 6 inches, but I'm not going to take the time to to dig that down. So I'm going to try hewing it when it's up high. I don't know if you saw the video, I'm going to post it pretty soon on sharpening axes. This axe is a faller's axe, and it's got a really, really thin, scary blade. So it's great for cutting crosswise, but it also works pretty good for roughing out these hewing. Now, I don't take all of these blocks off at once, because if you do, then when you're chopping and you hit like this and the axe jumps, you're chasing the axe down there and dragging it back, and you expend a lot of energy stopping that axe swing and then bringing it back. Okay, I moved that log dog down to the other end of the log so it's out of the way. I rotated this log a little more until I get a little farther down the log and get up a little higher. So I'm going to use this axe. Probably take me a while to get in the rhythm of this. It already seems harder than I remember, so bear with me here. I'm sure I'll edit out most of the curse words. See to me about the log, the axe slipping out, but it's got something to stop it there. Now, when you want to clean up the log a little bit, you don't want the axe to dig in. If this was a one-sided one, I could go along and do it down across the grain, just like you see in all the pictures of them hewing. And by going diagonally across the wood, it doesn't dig in. And you can pare the wood down pretty smooth. Now, again, if this was a one-sided axe, I think that would be a pretty respectable hewing job on there so far. Huh, you know, I noticed one thing after 37 years. The axe is duller, the wood is harder, and most of all, there seems to be a lot less oxygen in the air for breathing. Okay, another thing. When you're hewing a log, hew from the big end to the small end. See, when I dug in here, the wood came out up like that. If you start at the other end, oftentimes, if the log's a little crooked, the cut wants to go deeper and deeper into the wood. So, hew the logs from big end to little, and it works much better. What's happened is when I was jugging the blocks off, the axe is at a right angle to me. When I'm hewing, the axe is behind me, so I can go down diagonally across the wood and kind of slice it off at an angle. Now I want you to know that if I was in practice a little bit, I wouldn't be making nearly as many missed chops as I am doing. A little bit. By the time I get to the other end of the log, I bet I'm able to chop where I'm looking. Again, I'm going with the grain. It's kind of digging in. Whenever I go diagonal, I get a little better look. Back here, looks like I'll take off one more block, then I'll shut the camera off, and then when nobody's looking, I'll go ahead and hew the other side of this log. When you're hewing, you know, I saw one comment on YouTube when this guy from Scandinavia was hewing, and he was hanging onto the axe up close, and he was cutting things, and he was doing an absolutely masterful job. Well, some comment on YouTube was, why don't you swing that axe? My son can swing an axe much better than that. I guess what this guy doesn't realize is that hewing isn't a brute strength thing. You're supposed to have some finesse. And a good sharp axe is a axe, it's a chisel, it's a hand plane, and lots of times you're choking up very short and using the axe for something other than splitting firewood. See that the split was going nice and straight and it wasn't digging in. So I can put a little more strength into it and just split these pieces off so I don't have to hew quite as much. Now I can go back. If you want to see a guy who's a master at this, there's some YouTubes posted by a guy named Mr. Chickadee. And he built a post and beam home, and he uses all hand tools, and that guy really has finesse with hewing all the timber, and I was impressed with watching him work. Take get some of that sawdust off of there, and like I said, for not hewing for 37 years, I'm pretty happy with the way that's going. When I get both sides hewn, we'll take a draw knife and peel the bark off, and we'll have a nice big timber. Well, I'm going to shut the camera off and finish hewing this. That is, after I take 2 or 3 breaks, catch my wind. Oh, another thing is, I think you should not wear gloves when you're doing a lot of axe work. I think that you lose contact with the axe handle. I mean, you're going to get blisters, but you can tape and stuff. But I think you need to have your bare hands hanging onto that axe handle, and you got much more control. You got a better feel for what you're doing. So you can do what you want, but I have a lot better luck when I'm working with axes to not, if I'm splitting firewood, fine. But if I'm trying to do any kind of craftsmanship, I am not going to be having gloves on. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Show you what I got here. I pretty much hewed that one side. And if you get down and look down the log, it's pretty darn flat. I was pretty happy with it. I didn't go back and do any real touching up, so what you see is what you get, or what I did. But I am going to set up and show you knocking off those last 2 blocks, because I ran into a thing here that you should be aware of. The log was crooked and it was real cut off a lot out here, back here in the middle, real big thick blocks. Then out here, as it got thinner, because of the curve of the log, it was starting to dig in, and I was getting below the saw mark here. So when I get done with this log, I'm going to roll it over the other way and come back against this, because this was catching in and it was going deeper and deeper, which isn't a big deal when you're talking about a log for the log cabin. So I'll show you how I'm going to avoid that on those last 2 chunks. One thing I would have done, as soon as I noticed that, I would have gone in and cut these shorter blocks, like about 6 inches. Let me go ahead and cut these last 2. I found out that as sharp as this big axe was, I just don't like it as well as that other axe. Oh God, I went deep there. I'm terrible. I tried to go high like that, not like that. Tried to go high. Then if it looked like it was going to dig in, see how it wants to dig in there? Just the grain doing that. So I would just have to think ahead. So this one, I'm going to be doing a lot more diagonal hewing on it, to keep that from going in any deeper. Like right here, bad spot. So getting the, well, I'm not happy. Getting the cut back behind me. Then when I get done, if I rolled it over, I'd be able to come back and go like that, so those slivers don't keep going deeper and deeper. Now I'd probably have to live with that mark right there. Again, it dug in too deep right there. I knew it was gonna. I thought I would just do this as a bad example. Okay, I'm pretty darn happy with my work on that log, and I'm not even exhausted. I don't think actual time was not even an hour on that. I'm sure it wasn't. Anyway, you can see it's down on this end. Got a little bit cut off there that I didn't want, because of the way that grains. So I'd say if you have stuff that starts to do that, make those cross cuts pretty close together, or chop them down, and that surface is pretty darn nice. There's chips laying on there, and if you're really particular, you could take, like here in the sunlight, you can see, well, that's decent. I'd be real happy with that for some looks like here on the end I should go back the other way and fix that. I'm going to go ahead and maybe roll it over and hew that other side so you can see what the whole log looks like done. And when I put this all together in a video, I should have both sides hewn, and then I'll take the bark off so you can see what a log would look like for the cabin. Okay folks, here's the finished product, and it came out real good. Now this, I didn't go back and touch anything up. Those are I could take the axe and go back at a diagonal. Like I said, if I had a flat-sided hewing axe, it would even be better. Now, I peeled the bark off, and you can see, you can always tell tulip woods because they have that funny surface, and it has little, like little sharp knots sticking out. Log came out real good. I got into some spots on the other side that I should point out I'd forgotten what they're like. When the axe starts digging in, then I reverse the log. Like, see right, I'm happy with the way this turned out. You know, for not hewing a log in 37 years, it kind of came back. I remember a lot of the things. Just a couple of things I was talking about. When you're first chopping those blocks off, the axe is at a right angle to your body. By the time you're trying to hew the diagonal, then the axe is trailing so you can chop down. I think the whole idea with hewing, and the reason the axes are so big, is the weight of the axe makes it so you're doing less work. So you're just kind of like dropping the axe and letting it cut. And on green wood, it's fun to hew. So my advice is try this sometime. Your first one's probably going to look pretty bad, but you're going to learn a lot, and it isn't difficult. I mean, if I can hew a 12-foot log on two sides in an hour and 45 minutes, you guys should be able to do okay. When I built the cabin, I could do 4 logs a day if I'd start at 7 and go until I would drop at night. I could get 4 logs done. I don't think I can do that now. But thanks for watching. Some feedback is appreciated. So until I do the next log cabin YouTube, we will talk to you later. Thanks for watching.